Okay, hello. I'm just being funny here, but I did that because the topic, one of the biggest takeaways I got from a client of mine's event this weekend called MaD Metamorphosis Summit, which was excellent and inspiring and so marvelous. I just wish so many people could experience this. And so this event that she put on this weekend called the MaD Metamorphosis Summit had so many wonderful things in it, but one of the most poignant things I took away was this idea of loving the you that you see in the mirror. And why that's so important, and not just the physical you that you see, but the spiritual you, the soul that you see looking back at you in the mirror. And so, and I thought I'd bring that to you, my business audience, those of you who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, personal branders, even those of you who are in your career professions. Loving yourself, as I've reflected upon this weekend, is so critical for many things, but especially business. So we're going to talk about why I feel that is so critical for business. I want to hear your thoughts as well, whatever this brings up for you. And in the meantime, I also wanted to share something else that this brought up for me in relation to that idea, that concept of loving the you that you see in the mirror. And that's the story of Maya Angelou. So Maya Angelou, renowned author, poet, and so many other things, died 4 years ago, I believe it was. And I think she made it to age 86. And I remember hearing her in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm pretty certain she said this very same thing in Greenville when I heard her speak in person. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you where she spoke to me. 2 seconds. I'm going to show that to you. Okay, I'm back. So, yes, Maya, I met her years ago in Greenville, and she signed this page in this book. This is her signature, and as you know, she passed, like I was saying, at least 4 years ago now, but it was such a blessing to meet her in person. And one of the I really need to frame this. If any of you know a good framer in Atlanta, let me know. But in the meantime, I met her, and I'm pretty certain she shared the same story in Greenville, and I'm going to share it with you because I was reminded of it this weekend. It was so powerful. And so when Maya was a bit younger, she had a mentor named Frederick Wilkerson, I believe, who implored her to read a line from a book called Lessons in Truth. And the line was so simple, and it said, and fair warning, this is going to mention God. However, whatever you believe in, the universe, whatever, insert that. Whatever bigger force you believe in, if any, insert that. Okay, it's very applicable, I promise you, to the business world. And so in this book, it had one simple line, which is, God loves me. And so Maya's mentor implored her to read that line, read it out loud in front of him. And so she read it. She said, God loves me. Frederick said, read it again. She says, God loves me. And he says, read it again, read it again. And finally, Maya reads it one more time and says, God loves me. I'm not saying this right as she says it.
There's a book called Lessons in Truth.
Wow.
And in the book, there's a line which is, God loves me. And when I came to read it to my then mentor, Frederick Wilkerson, the late Frederick Wilkerson, I read, God loves me. And he said, read it again. I said, God loves me. He said, read it again. Read it again. And finally, I said, God loves me. It still humbles me that this force, which made leaves and fleas and stars and rivers and And you loves me. Me, Maya Angelou. It's amazing. I can do anything and do it well. Any good thing, I can do it. That's why I am who I am. Yes, because God loves me and I'm amazed at it and grateful for it.
So Maya says in this interview with Oprah, and I'm pretty certain again that I've heard this in person as well when I heard her speak, but that story, you know, she's talking about when she finally got it, that God, and again, insert whatever you believe here, for whatever you believe, universe, whatever, this thing that connects all of us, that is within all of us, loves her, Maya Angelou. And she was humbled by it because she was reflecting upon, even at her age, at that time it would have been 85, it brought her to tears to think that something that big, perfect, beautiful, imaginative, creative, and that holds this whole world together. She put it, that made the leaves, the fleas, the leaves, the rivers, the stars, and you, loves her, Maya Angelou. And so it does humble her, and it was amazing to her, even then, to hear, and she literally had tears on her face saying this. And what's so humbling about that is the idea that God loves you, or, you know, again, insert whatever. You are loved by a higher power and a higher force, you by yourself. And so that should implore us to love ourselves. And if we can love ourselves, and this was the revelation I learned, you know, or was reminded of, or really vividly reminded of this weekend, is that if we can learn to love ourselves, even amidst our own imperfections, if we can give ourselves grace, if we can love ourselves despite all of our flaws and the mistakes we make over and over and over, as entrepreneurs sincerely, if we can do that, then surely we can love others. And we can show that love to others. And I think it's so critical, because if we fail to do that, if we don't have love for ourselves, what are we really creating in this world? What are we putting out there? Because if it's not made in love, and if it's not made with the intention of truly serving and helping others, and I think people can truly do that when they are operating in their passions, when they understand why they're here, and they're connecting that with their business. I've heard many people say, don't try to make your passion your business. You need to be considering what makes money, because so many people have failed at trying to make their passion into a business. You know, and it's true, every passion does not have to be a business, but if you are in business, I would hope that what you do means something to you, is your gift, is your talent in this world that you can give to others, that you can share with others. And so I just thought that was so critical and important. In this summit this weekend, the facilitators, Jazz and Shania Jones, had everyone at some point look in a mirror, much smaller than this one. Excuse the paint on this. I used this years ago for the public supermarket charities program, and we were doing face painting and all kinds of crafts with kids during that weekend. And so this still has it still sadly has paint on it. I've just never taken it off before. So anyway, sorry, excuse the paint. However, they had a mirror not unlike this. It was a little, much smaller, but the concept is the same. And they had everyone look in the mirror. And again, you know, not to see your physical flaws and your imperfections, but to look at your own eyes and your soul in the mirror, and to consider the fact that you have to have love for yourself. You have to have love for yourself because, again, without that, and I think that's so critical for what I believe in with regards to authenticity in your business, because if you really actually don't love yourself, you don't love who you are, you don't love the person that you are, how can you really truly love and serve others? And so that authenticity shines through, I think, in people who get that, who do have love for themselves. And that self-love shows up in your own confidence. It shows up in your ability to walk into any situation, in your own self-belief, so that you're not telling yourself any lies, negative talk in your head. We talked about that before in another video where we were talking about perfection paralysis, analysis paralysis, where so much of this negative talk in our heads is keeping us from moving forward, taking those steps forward that we know we need to take in our lives. And so this all ties in so nicely with the concept of loving the you that you see in the mirror. Jazz Jones, who owns MaD Miracles LLC, who ran this workshop, this summit this weekend, wrote a book to her mother. And one of the things she talks about in the book and shares freely is about her own mother, who used to always look at herself in the mirror every morning and say, I'm going to do it with the mirror since I have it here. She would look in the mirror every morning and say, "Good morning, beautiful. I love you." Every morning. Just like that. And, Jazz, who was a teenager at the time, really, you know how moms and teenage girls get. And she just thought that was the most conceited thing ever for her mother to do. Just so conceited to every morning talk about how she loves herself. But as Jazz learned, it's so critical to love that person that you see. Because again, if you can't love yourself, how can you ever truly love and care about others? If you're not forgiving and graceful enough for yourself, sorry, there's a little bug in here. How can we truly love and serve others? So I thought that was so important. Also today, I had the wonderful opportunity to witness some history in the making right here in Georgia, where we have a new Supreme Court justice of Georgia's Supreme Court, and that is Harold Melton. And he was sworn in today at the state capitol, and it was beautiful to see. He had his wife there, his kids. The room was standing. The room was so packed, literally standing room only for this man being sworn in today as Georgia's new Supreme Court Chief Justice. And one of the things he mentioned was the tribe, his family, the village around him, his neighbors, the people he grew up with, lifelong friends, and all of that, and how that molded and shaped him. And he was so humble in his own speech, and clearly does not take himself too seriously. And that was wonderful to see. Wonderful and inspiring to see that level of excellence and how humble he was. Even just admitting his own imperfections as a human. And so, if the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia can be that humble and still recognize his path on his own journey, even at age 51 or however old he is now, I think that speaks volumes, and again goes back to this concept of loving the you in the mirror. I don't think people get that far without truly loving themselves. So when Maya said and read that line from Lessons in Truth, where her mentor implored her to read it again, that line that God loves me, I think it humbled her so much to think someone like that can love her. And think about what place Maya was in her life at that time. She has been to the pinnacle. She is, by all accounts, you could view these two people, Maya Angelou, Harold Melton, new Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia, as people who are operating in that space of self-actualization, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where the pinnacle is self-actualization, and you are operating at your top capacity. You have your education, you have all the basics in life, and then some. You have the capacity to give and to love and to serve others and live your best life, essentially. And even with all of those accomplishments, international and national fame and notoriety and all of that, she was still humbled by the fact that God loves her. Because she still knew, I'm still human. And so those were some of the big lessons I took away from me this weekend, is the ability to love ourselves. And another thing I may talk about later is our relationships with our mothers growing up, and what that means to us, what that means for our futures, and how that's such a big part of the story we tell ourselves about our own selves, which sounds fluffy and whatever, and self-reflection and all that. However, it's so critical to do that, because you'll be surprised. I was surprised at some of the enlightening moments I had, thinking about my own mother and how she grew up in the significant emotional moments in her own life, and how that affected me, and how I view myself, and how I view what is possible. It's so critical to take that time to reflect and think about that. So there's many wonderful things from that. And the last thing I'll share with you as a takeaway today is the lesson of gratitude, because gratitude fits into this self-love as well. So it's going back to the practice of journaling, which I off and on do, but now I'm super inspired to go back and do this again, because it's good. It's good for me to do, and I would implore you to do it too. But journaling, for 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, setting your intention for the day, what you want to create in that day, the magic you want to use. Oh yes, there was one other thing that I thought was so great, and that was about how, again, this has to do with God, but again, as I say, insert whatever you like, how we are muses for God, and how He can't wait every day. I have to find this video and link it to you. I'll link the Maya Angelou one too, but I thought this was so inspiring, that He can't wait every day to see the world through your eyes, and to experience what you experience through your own eyes. The people you encounter, the decisions you make, the opportunities you have to uplift others, to pour into others, and to also pour into yourself, and again, do some of that self-love and care, and know that you're special too. But that idea that we are muses for God, and He can't wait every day to see how we're going to respond, and how we choose to live life.
Listening. What do you want to hear? You want to hear about how I'm so freaked out, that I'm not doing everything I can, that I'm so freaked out all the time, that I'm afraid that I'm not doing enough, and that fear is turning me into somebody I don't want to be, and I can't stop it. You have no idea what it's like to be pulled all the time. I mean, not by Alex, but by this idea that I am not doing enough, that I am not enough.
He knows. And He wants you to know that you are enough and so much more. You are here so God can experience the world through your eyes. See what you see, feel what you feel. Every day, He can't wait to see what you'll do. What makes you laugh, what moves you. He can't wait. Every day through you, he falls in love with the world all over again. Elizabeth, you are his muse.
It's wonderful to think about. Almost like a wonderful little, not even a test, but just the idea that we can entertain him and potentially make him proud and happy and joyful and delighted in us, just in the way that we respond throughout our day. It's pretty cool to think about, a muse for God. So that was one of my words I chose. We had to choose an M word and a D word because their name is MaD Miracles. So to make our own MaD acronym of sorts, mine became museful, which is not a word, I made it up, but it's because I can do that. Museful, playing off of that idea that, being a muse for God. Again, insert whatever you believe. Museful and divine were my two words of choice. All right, and this is so laid back today. I'm just chatting with you, but just thought I'd share that with you. What thoughts do you have about this idea of loving yourself in business? The concept of it giving you not only the confidence you need to operate in this business world and have your cup filled up enough to overflow and pour into others, but also the ability to serve, loving ourselves, giving us the capacity to love others through our work, through our gifts and our talents. So let me know your thoughts, whatever you think, whatever comes up for you. And cheers, thanks for coming. Don't forget to subscribe. You can subscribe below. The button is below, and would love to have you here if you find this valuable and enjoyable on some level. And also you can find us anywhere online on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn at the A.D.S Agency. That's THEADS for ads, like advertising, agency. All right, cool. Thanks so much. Have a lovely week and see you next time.